What's going to happen if you read half a book per day? I really want to know the answer. Most people use books to procrastinate in some way or another. Most people read less than one book a year, which means they hardly read at all. And there's the other side of the medal. People who read so much that they forget to act upon what they just read, which is very, very bad, because only applied knowledge is power. Those are powerful words, but not my own. The habit of reading seems to be very popular amongst the top 1%, and I wondered what would happen if I'd install this habit as well. It therefore seems to be very beneficial, but for most people, reading is a struggle. And you know what? I've got a confession to make. I've struggled with both of these. I found a beautiful quote describing this in Felix Dennis' book, How to Get Rich. Knowing is not doing what you need to do, my son. Telling me you know is only bluffing on the run. Knowing isn't doing. Doing isn't knowing. Nothing but the knowing and the doing gets it done. And I think this is a perfect description of this situation. Reading frequently requires time, focus and effort. And those things are not only needed in the reading part, but also when implementing what you read. And it's very easy to get going, to start reading. What's hard is maintaining your reading speed, maintaining the books per day you plan to read, and maintaining implementing what you read. I think this habit is an investment that will pay off big times over the long run. It's finally time to make this a long-term habit. And for the next 21 days, I will try everything to install this habit by reading half a book per day and summarizing what I've read. I will take notes and I will try to implement it as much as I can. For example, by writing out which habits I could install next or what exercises I can start doing. I'll also let audiobooks count. This is very important to me. All of my role models and people I look up to seem to be reading very frequently, and I want to do so as well. There has to be a reason behind it, and I want to make this habit stick. It has been 21 days since I made my resolution. So far I've not only learned a lot of things by reading, but I've also learned a lot about working. Let me back this off a little. I paid very close attention to how I felt while reading and how it affected me throughout the day. You know what? There are a lot of concepts that seem very reasonable, very true and very intelligent. But until you see proof for them, your brain is always very hesitant to accept them. And that's exactly what happened to me. Besides learning various different things while reading, which is naturally what you want to do, I also learned how I have to tackle new projects, tasks and obstacles. And while that may not seem very important, it's extremely valuable. And while that may not sound very important, it was extremely powerful to see those things with proof that they are true. And I want to implement those concepts in my daily work. I now have a proof for a belief about effort, and it's this. Don't save yourself up for the future task and give it everything you got right now. This could, for example, be in the gym when you don't focus on the set you want to do, but rather on the set you're doing right now. But it applies to pretty much everything. Whenever I had spare time, for example, because one of our teachers was ill, I had to spend this time reading. I couldn't just say, you know what, I will do that later. But every time I tried to do that, it really got very difficult to complete the goal of half a book per day. I simply underestimated the effort that was needed to complete this. Half a book per day doesn't sound too intimidating, but it is quite a lot of work and you need to stay focused. So don't save yourself up. If you can do it now, there's no reason to do it later. The next thing that seemed very interesting were my thoughts throughout this project. If you constantly nurture your mind, it's a lot more engaged and comes up with ideas, possibilities and actions you can take. I like reading before I go to bed, and when waking up I sometimes had an idea concerning the things I read the day before. This was amazing. I noticed that my mind was working on the tasks even while I was sleeping. There is so much unused potential, and it's not even that difficult to utilize it. I'm not a robot, so I also paid attention to how reading made me feel. And whenever I did it before I went to bed, I felt calm, positive, and it felt like it was just the right thing to do before you go to bed. But it's not just a lullaby. At the same time, you're excited and motivated to take the next steps toward your goals. If you're having a hard time falling to sleep, try this out. It really helped me, and it may also be very beneficial for you. When reading biographies and non-fiction, you can learn about people's failures and things they had to learn the hard way. But you can also be inspired and motivated. It feels as if the author is mentoring you. It's life-changing information at arm's reach. I don't even know whether that expression is correct. But what I do know is that you don't have to pay loads of money for it. You can get things that are extremely valuable by just working. Some ideas sound ridiculously simple, but you would have never thought of them. And that's the power of books. You can have a mentor for a day. I changed my style of taking notes. First of all, you should absolutely take notes when reading. It's crucial, because otherwise, why would you spend that time if you can't take the steps to implement it correctly? Right now, I formulate a few main questions and I take notes about the main topics by hand. This way I can remember it better, but it also makes it very easy to look it up. And if you really need to go deep into it, if you need to have a look at it again, just grab the book. The main intention of this challenge was to show myself that reading half a book per day is possible. I always thought it required an amazing reading speed or loads of time, or I don't know, but I thought it was too difficult. It is possible. I still go to the gym, I still work for school, and I still work on this project. If you plan ahead of time and have a desire to read, then I'm absolutely sure that you can do it as well. However, and that was the $1 million insight I had during this project, quality is way more worth than quantity when it comes to reading. About halfway in, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to continue with this. And I did so because I wanted to prove to myself that it's possible. But I realized that if I read a lot, I can learn about new concepts, but I won't be able to implement them correctly. This relates to the concept I mentioned in the beginning. You can procrastinate either way, either by implementing it too much and not reading at all, or, and this is what I've realized, by reading a lot without taking action. One way to help with this is to formulate very specific questions before you start reading, to then take notes to answer those. But that's not enough. There are a few influencers that sell the one book per day strategy as if it was the way to go. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. You can read one book per day, that's not a problem. But if you don't act upon it, if you don't use it to take action, it's useless. It's just a waste of time. I'm not saying that it's useless for everyone, but right now, it's not valuable for me. I haven't decided how many books a week I want to continue reading yet. But I will have to find a balance between new information and taking action. You don't need to try weird challenges, but I urge you to start reading. Carefully pick a book that seems exciting and take notes on it. If you have any book recommendations or questions, leave them down below. And maybe we can help each other to find new, exciting books. And if you have any improvements for taking action, share them as well. Please do me just that one favor. Start investing time in your self-education. I hope to see you soon.